Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. The International Parking and Mobility Institute is pleased to present today's learning lab titled Applying Game Day Best Practices to Campus-Wide Events presented by JustPark. My name is Tyler Perkins, and I'm the Communications Coordinator for IPMI. We thank you for joining us today, and as a reminder, the Learning Lab will be recorded and posted online to IPMI's YouTube channel within a few days. Everyone who is registered for this event will also receive a post-event emailer linking to the video once the recording is ready. Today's presentation can last up to 60 minutes with a Q&A session at the end. We removed the Q&A button at the bottom, so please ask all your questions using the chat feature. We'll answer as many questions as time allows. And now I'll pass it over to Drew to get started.
Thanks, Tyler. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name's Drew Lee. I'm VP of Partnerships here at JustPark. Been with JustPark for just over 5 years, and prior to JustPark, spent a few years at Texas A&M University in the ticketing office. So very excited to be with you all today with our two panelists, Brian and Brett. Tyler gave the great housekeeping overview, so we'll just jump right into today's topic, which is applying game day best practices to campus-wide, or what I'll sometimes refer to as third-party events. So jumping right in, as we all know, universities that have these major football programs have spent years and years, if not decades, building parking operations around those events to handle the season ticket holders, the crowds, and all the different campus entities that are happening on a typical event day. On any given Saturday, we could see upwards of 80 to 100,000 people on campus attending one of these events, as Brett and Brian know better than most. And the logistics behind that, whether it's the staffing plan, whether it's the traffic, the communications, everything like that, it's an extremely sophisticated program, and it takes many hours and days and weeks of planning. The kicker, though, is that for all of the planning that goes into it, a typical football season only lasts for 3 to 4 months, and the rest of the time, those venues generally sit empty. But what we're seeing a trend in the last few years is campuses reaching out to bring third-party events to get those stadiums full, to drive more revenue and more attendance to campus for those stadiums. They're not one-off experiments anymore. They're really becoming part of the calendar. And as Brett and Brian will attest to, we think going forward, the event calendar is going to be full of these events. The problem is that with all the planning that goes into football, those plans don't always execute the same for these third-party events, as Brian and Brett will say. So today we want to dig into exactly that. How do you capitalize on the opportunities to run a smooth parking operation? How do you do it without disrupting all of the other activity happening on campus? And with that, joined by two people, Brian Riggs, the Parking and Traffic Program Manager at Notre Dame, and Brett Litterall, who manages operations at Campus Park for Ohio State University. Both of them have navigated this in really different but equally instructive ways, and I'm very excited about the conversation today. So Brian, Brett, great to have you both. I'm going to start with introductions. Brian, how about you start?
Thanks, Drew. I'm Brian Riggs. I'm the Parking and Traffic Program Manager for the University of Notre Dame. And I will be celebrating my 20-year anniversary come the end of September this year, which is kind of crazy to think about. I've held pretty much every role I've had on my event team here as an on-call parking attendant, all the way up to now our program manager who manages everything logistically. I'm on large event days for concerts or football games. I'm in our command center, which is actually in our stadium press box. I have myself, there's representatives from all agencies, from PD, fire, medical, dispatchers, ushers, security. There's all in one room where we're all together coordinating almost all day long with everything that's going on. I've managed hundreds of events here, if not thousands, now that I've been here for so long. From our football games every year, we have at least 6 to 8 of those every season, along with our hockey games that we have, men's women's basketball. We've hosted an NHL Winter Classic and a couple international soccer games, and now many concerts.
Great. Brett, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Brett Litterall, I am the Director of Operations here at Campus Park for the Ohio State University. I started here beginning of 2023. Prior to that, I spent my first 10 years in parking managing in the Arena District in Columbus, so that's downtown. Bit of a mixed use, multi-venue area down there as well. So in starting off, I was able to learn through, the Columbus Blue Jackets at Nationwide Arena. There's a minor league baseball team there, and there's also the Columbus Crew soccer team. And while I thought I knew a lot about events from those venues, I then came to Ohio State and realized that this is a massive operation that is not necessarily comparable. I know Brian's probably totally understanding that. Here, there's the Ohio Stadium, the Schottenstein Center, the Medical Center, and everything else that's happening on campus with students, faculty, staff. So having to coordinate somewhere between 50 to 75 events a month, all different sizes, all different, amounts of people going to those. It's a lot. And so before you factor in these four major stadium concerts, I mean, add in football, it's a lot going on campus all at one time, a lot of coordination, a lot of working with the athletics department and the police department. And it's a lot to take on operationally from an event standpoint. A lot of technology goes into this. So it's just a whole different ballgame here at OCU.
Yeah, and that's a great segue. I kind of want to give everyone a sense of the scale of these events. So can we start off by Brian giving us a little bit of a sense of your parking footprint?
Sure. Our Notre Dame Stadium holds anywhere up to around 77 or more thousand fans inside. And anytime we have a concert, there's always floor seating. So we're pushing 80,000 or more. We manage between 8 to 9,000 vehicles on our property across our entire campus, plus some outside universities that help out. Across to the west of us, we have our Holy Cross College and St. Mary's College. They park, they help us out on game days and event days, luckily. So that's been great. They can hold about 2,000 to 2,500 vehicles between the two of them. And then we also have a neighborhood south and east of our campus that they kind of, it's tradition for them to open up their parking lots and have fans park in their yards and come over to our campus here for whatever events going on. And luckily, especially when we're sold out, we're not trying to do this on our own. We know we have those outside communities to help us out here. Um, in terms of technology, we've been using the JustPark Prime devices for, I believe, 10 or more years now. Very thankful for a lot of the upgrades that we've been able to see since we started. And it helps with all of our major events and concerts. We do, as you guys know, we do a lot of pay to park and drive up options day of, plus they also do the scanning of our pre-sold passes and anything else that kind of we need those days or on those days. So then we are able to track everything all together in one spot. And I'm not going through multiple dashboards, trying to figure out what's going on, when and where. It's been great to have everything all together. And actually a week and a half ago, we hosted Luke Combs to our last concert. And it was the largest concert we've had by about 2,000 tickets in the stadium here. We're getting close to 80,000. So that was crazy. And then now we have our next big event besides our commencement weekend is going to be we're hosting ACDC on Friday in September to kind of kick off our concert right before our football season. Friday, the weekend right before our first home game, ACDC's here. So it's going to be a lovely challenge since it's also a class day and classes will be in session.
Yeah, I love that you highlighted the aspect of having class on the same day as one of your biggest concerts. Brett, same question to you. You mentioned all the different venues that you have on campus, obviously the medical facility there. Can you kind of give us a sense of scale and with your parking footprint?
Sure. So Ohio State is a multi-venue, multi-use operation. We have approximately 38,000 parking spaces. Our two biggest event venues are the Ohio Stadium, which holds over 100,000 for football, and one of the largest stadiums in the country at that. And then we have the Schottenstein Center, which holds 18 to 20,000 for concerts. What makes Ohio State particularly complex is that we're managing parking across the entire campus. So, like I've said, this medical center is 24/7. So we have to make sure everybody gets where they need to go, from faculty, staff, students, patients, and that our events aren't negatively impacting those people. So when I say we have 50 to 75 events a month, some of these could be a football game and a stadium concert, but the majority are those smaller events like a lacrosse game or a meeting at a building or anything at one of our arts venues. So a lot of coordination, a lot of communication ahead of time. For the stadium concerts in particular, the athletics department, we call them global events, which is our athletics department kind of takes the lead from a logistical standpoint. And then we work together to lay out and map out where people are going to park, if they're prepaid parking only, if they're permit only. There's a lot of different avenues we can go for setting up an event like that. They use Ticketmaster to manage their tickets and their parking passes, their prepaid parking passes. So we get reports on what those capacity numbers are supposed to look like and how many people are going to park in each lot. And then on our side, we can figure out through the JustPark portal or suite, where we're at in terms of how many people are parking. We can sell day of, like the drive up, like Brian was talking about. So that's how we scan at the lots. And then beyond the devices, we also have a live capacity tool on our website called Space Tracker. So our garages are separate. Our JustPark devices are for surface lots. Our garages are operated by TIBA, and we can see in real time how many people are parked in those garages. So our police officers and our permit holders can kind of plan ahead to where they want to go on campus before they make it to campus.
Great. Thank you both for the introduction. So want to kick it back over to you, Brian. When we were first, preparing for this webinar, when Notre Dame hosted, when you were there, one of the first big stadium concerts, you said you essentially treated it like a football game, implementing the same plan, but that approach didn't necessarily work out for that event. So can you give us some more insight into what happened?
Sure, I love reliving the flashbacks of that event. So we hosted Garth Brooks in October 2018, and we've done hundreds of football games, obviously, and so we're kind of used to that kind of traffic pattern. But our that concert was the very first like large scale thing we've done that was not related to football, and we thought our football game plan for communications and traffic control and all those logistics would work for a concert, and we were very sadly mistaken. And the only way we found that out was day of, where we were trying to make adjustments and realize that we need to better communicate here. So one of the issues that we see here on campus, or I guess not an issue, one of the things we were so used to for football is roughly 70% of the fans that come are so used to being on campus, know the traffic patterns, know where they're parking. So there's only about 30% that are brand new to our campus that we need to help kind of communicate to, and things worked out pretty well. For concerts, we didn't realize that is actually inverted, and 70% or more are brand new to campus, and our message board plan and communication plan that we thought would work, that we utilized, did not work as well. So we've actually changed our entire large event plan to kind of reflect what we do for a concert now with all the communications, and now we use that for our game days as well. So it was kind of a weird situation where we overhauled our entire program to be able to help communicate things to our concert fans, and then just use that as well for our football. And it's been crazy. And then going into Luke Combs, usually I've had to increase our message boards. So we use a lot of message boards that we own, plus we also rent that I have access to and control things in our command center live. So any adjustments that we need to make kind of comes through me. We had maybe 5 or 6 for our first Garth Brooks concert, and now we're pushing almost 20, and different locations across campus. And like I said, everything kind of comes through me, and I'm able to change things on my laptop, or if I'm out in the field for some reason on my phone. I get more control on the laptop, obviously, but I'll be able to do quick things if I need to from our phone. So that was something that helped us out tremendously once we started utilizing those.
Yeah, it really highlights your adaptability too to make those last minute adjustments. So you did a really good job of kind of explaining the like day of adjustments. How did you do the pre-event communication, or what changes did you make to the pre-communication plan for fans?
So we've tried to put parking front, like in the front of every email that we send out, whether it's a email from Notre Dame or any of our partners that help out with selling tickets and things like that. It's the first thing you do when you come to go anywhere is you park your car. So we're trying to go, this is the first thing you need to know what's going on when you come to an event. So we're just trying to make sure that that's there so they can know, especially the fans that have never been here before, where they need to park. Here's parking directions. Here's some maps for you so you can kind of get a better ID before you approach without kind of just coming in blind. It's always a challenge here. So usually about a month before our event, there's an email that goes out that pushes that communication out. There's a parking map, it links to our websites that kind of give you access to kind of what our campus will look like on event day. And when we're, of course, the neighboring, our colleges across the street, some parking in the neighborhoods as well. And there's also shuttle routes that go from our own property to a few locations, plus across the street from Holy Cross and St. Mary's. They have our shuttles that run from their lots to our venue here, so we can get kind of be a team effort here. And we had a partnership with Waze. It's kind of been a little outdated, so we're trying to work on getting things upgraded, whether with them or with another group, to help navigate campus, because we do close roads down at certain times throughout the day, put one-way traffic patterns in place. So we want to make sure that our routes are kind of prepping fans to know this is where you need to go. Maybe you're just your normal GPS location telling you to come down this road when they actually close, or it's a one-way traffic only. We try to make sure that's communicated ahead of time, and we're working to improve that. It's on my to-do list to make sure we try and get things a little bit easier there for the customer, but we're working on it.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely don't want people wayfinding just to the stadium itself. And like you said, parking is the first and last impression. I know all the parking nerds that are listening on the webinar can resonate with that. So you mentioned too that the arrival pattern for concerts or these third-party global events, whatever you want to call them, is pretty different than your football arrival. Can you kind of explain that?
Sure. Yeah. Our football, our lots for our parking lots on campus here open at 8 a.m. No matter whether it's an afternoon kickoff or a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. My team is here on site prior to 8 a.m. Before we open things up, and we thought that would work for our concerts as well. And we found out pretty quickly that 8 a.m. there's not much traffic coming in. We don't have lines of vehicles trying to come in into campus for the concert. So we've pushed things back to noon now. So for all of our concerts and other events that we have that's not football related, noon is when we open things up for campus. We see a small rush around that time. Like I said, we just had the Luke Combs concert. We had a couple hundred vehicles coming in right at noon, and then things petered out a little bit until about 3 to 4 hours before the event really started. And that's kind of when we saw that big rush of vehicles. And we can make sure that we can set our staffing up now that we know that and have data to show it. I don't need to bring a full team of 100 plus staff in at 8 a.m. I can kind of stagger a few things and make sure things are ready to go by noon. For Luke, our gates open for the stadium at 5 o'clock, and he had 4 openers. The first ones went on at 5:20, and Luke didn't take the stage until 9 o'clock. So it was around 5 or 6 o'clock when we started seeing that increase of like peak traffic. And luckily, things started slowing down a little bit after about 6 or so, and we were able to eventually break down our traffic pattern about 7:30 or 8 o'clock. We covered a few things just in case we had a rush of coming in later.
Yeah, so it sounds like the major operational difference is you're getting more of a surge arrival versus a gradual buildup with tailgaters and things like that. You mentioned at the beginning that you kind of have your seat in the command center. Can you give us a little bit of insight into, what your duties are there and what you're looking for on event days?
Sure. Yeah. So our command center, like I said, we have I report to our chief of police here. So we have our almost entire reps from our police department, as well as our dispatchers are in the same room with us. We have a fire medical team, more security teams, and there's representatives from all the outside agencies for PD that we use. So we're kind of unique here that 4 sides of our university are all major highways, and there's county oversees one, South Bend, our city police see another one, our state police see a third. So it's kind of we have a rep from all these agencies that we have to work with on a minutely basis, depending on what's going on with traffic. So it's nice to be able in that room and be able to coordinate all that together. And then, of course, I'm sitting there with my laptop and access to message boards and being able to check the capacities with the live version of JustPark for across the entire campus. So I do a lot capacity study every hour, starting usually about 10 a.m. Or 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. when it's the concert. So we can see what the gradual build is hourly across all these lots. And there's a couple of departments that reference that data as well that I fill in. So it's kind of nice to be able to, in one spot, take a look at all this information and not kind of do it the old way we used to do it before we started using JustPark devices. It would be try to make a phone call when there's 80,000 or more people in the area. Cell service is not. So it's not a great thing to do. So we used to try to make phone calls or call on our radios to kind of figure out where we are in each lot, and you would just have to memorize or kind of be fluent with how many spaces or locations there are. And it was a kind of a hard time to do that, but then being able to have the dashboard has been wonderful. And I only make a few phone calls when I need to take care of some issues, and then I can check it all from there.
Yeah, I fear the phone calls will never go away. But another theme we've seen over the last few years is a kind of focus on pre-sales. So are you seeing that um, concert goers are pre-booking now or more now than they used to?
Yes, so we had a little bit of pre-sale for the Garth Brooks concert we had in 2018, but we did not sell out our pre-sold parking availability. So we relied heavily on the drive-up aspect of things. Now we're starting to see whenever we do announce a concert and tickets go live, we try to get parking to go live at the same time. There's usually an uptick of sales there, but usually the month out, a couple weeks out, we start seeing a lot more of that bit pushed out and sold. So it's been it definitely it's trending to where people are trying to make sure they know what's going on and where they can park ahead of time and not just try to figure out when they arrive. So it's been a fun time kind of seeing that trend. The downside for us is going to be our ACDC concert. I think I talked about earlier. It's going to be on a Friday during class days, so we're not opening the lots at noon like we normally would. We're opening a little later, and we can't guarantee all the numbers of pre-sold that we normally did for this past concert we just had. I believe we pre-sold 6,000 or so passes for Luke Combs, and we do also do a lot of drive up for the ACDC and the situation we're in with it being a Friday and class day. I believe I'm selling about between 1,000 and 1,500 pre-sold passes, and we're going to be heavily relying on drive up once our faculty, staff, and students go to exit campus. We'll backfill parking lots and try to accommodate as many people as we can in that time.
Nice. Okay, so we started with kind of you had to give a little overview of Garth Brooks, and maybe it didn't go as well because you implemented the football plan. So we've learned a lot since then. Can you kind of give us an insight into your learnings and how that impacted your most recent Luke Combs event?
Yeah, actually, things went as way better than they have previously. We were worried about the rain that we had here in South Bend for the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to this our last concert, and we have a lot of grass lots on our campus that we utilize just north, and actually we have a 9-hole golf course we utilize as well. And but I believe by the time we started parking cars, I lost almost 3,000 parking spaces worth of grass in all my areas, which was a significant hit. It was very challenging to try to figure out what we were going to do with all the drive us and pre-sold that we sold in those areas. We made sure to, with the spring concert, we knew there was weather. We didn't pre-sell a lot of the grass, but we also made sure we had those drive up options as well. And it was tough. Our golf course, so we have two kind of sections in there, and one of them we don't normally pre-sell anything because if it rains for on Monday, if mists a little bit, it's kind of closed on Saturday just because it doesn't drain well. But the other side of our course there holds about 800 vehicles, and I was told on Thursday morning we could do 200, and that was it because it just was so wet we weren't able to park the majority of the areas that we normally would. So that was a little challenging. And then the other two grass fields that we had, I have about 3,200 or so spaces that we can use there that we've been able to count when we're doing perfect weather events. And I believe I was told that morning we were close to, I think I want to say 1,500 or so. We did end up parking a little bit more in that area. We were able to get a little creative and use some spots we don't normally do. We have a daycare in the area there that they just built, and we utilize their lot to kind of get a few more vehicles parked in there. So things worked out pretty well. Um, but we like to get creative when needed. So there's a lot of our landscape services building and our Center for Culinary Excellence is in that area as well. We use their parking lots. It's all their staff were already here about the time we needed to start getting creative with our plan. And I believe we had, I think the final number for tickets, from what I was told was we were almost at 75,000 in our stadium. I know they pre-sold or they sold a little bit more than that, but show rates are not 100% for all events. And we actually got 2,000 more fans in our stadium than we did for the Garth Brooks concert in 2018.
Wow. So I see a lot of questions and some comments coming through. So it sounds like your experience is resonating with others that are on the call. So just want to give you an opportunity for universities or other operators that are starting to dip their toe into these kind of third-party global events. What's one thing that you'd most want them to know as they start planning and going into planning these operations?
If you think your football parking and logistics plan is going to work for a concert, it's going to be rare that it will fully. You want to make sure that you take an aspect of all the communications that you normally would send out. You have to think that there's going to be more people coming to your campus than you're used to that don't normally know where to go. I actually had a meeting this morning prior to this and found out that 90% of the tickets that were bought for a Luke Combs concert were first time attendees for our university. So my number of 70% is just a kind of average. Not, it was 90% 2 weekends ago for Luke. Um, and then usually make sure your lots are ready to go. You have a shuttle plan in place. Your clear communication is pushed out all the time, and then your data infrastructure, make sure that is in place and early, because every event you run is a data point. So we have backlog now of years of trending for, like I said, our soccer games, and we've hosted concerts now. All of our football games, we can go back and take a look to see how many drove in for that paid to park when they arrived, how many came in for pre-sold, and the times they arrived. And on my end of things, it's per lot, so I can know where everything is going ahead of time, and kind of use that information to help plan the next event. So I know what minor changes we need to make sure we make it easier for the guests when they arrive.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. So, Brett, I want to turn to Ohio State. So, you mentioned in your introduction that you started out in the Arena District, which is the Columbus Blue Jackets. You have the minor league team, the Clippers, and you then stepped into the university world on a big scale with Ohio State. So, can you give us a little bit of insight into how the two different operations compare?
Sure. So in the Arena District, I don't know, there's like 15 garages, 12 surface lots. Here, 17 garages and 166 surface lots. So from just a parking perspective, it's massive. And over there, everything is kind of somewhat set in stone. It's been operating for so long. If it's a concert or a Blue Jackets game, you know what rates, you know which garages, which signage, how many people you need to staff. It doesn't change a whole lot. And typically, a Blue Jackets game is occurring by itself. Sometimes there's some overlap where Blue Jackets and crew might have an event at the same time, but they're pretty far apart. Here, every day there's something happening. There's an event of some size going on, a meeting, something is going on campus. It's really kind of complex with the medical center. Like I said, it's 24/7. So one of the priorities that you can never lose sight on is making sure the patients and staff get where they need to go. Now we've kind of moved everyone into one section of campus for the medical side of things, and we alter some of the parking permits on our side. We alter some of the access for these big events so that these people have, an easier way to get to campus, can get right into the garages that they need to go into. We've made a lot of changes and a lot of efforts to really help people get where they need to go. But for these global events, like I said before, the venue tickets and parking prepaid passes go through Ticketmaster, and we rely heavily on those coming to us, and us, we recreate maps for every single event on campus at this level. We make sure we send those back to them. They post it on their website. We post it on our website. We're sending communication plans to our permit holders. The university is very helpful. We have a great partnership where they're also posting the same information. So our communication, their communication is matching as best it can. And our signage and their signage is pointing people the right way. So really, at the end of the day, our job is to execute and get people where they need to go, get the passes scanned that need to be in. Managing traffic, is hand in hand with PD, but making sure the permits and the prepaid passes go where they need to go is the main focus.
Yeah, so sounds like lots of different stakeholders, patients,
Yes.
students, event goers. Kind of want to lean into the technology piece. So how does that actually function on event day? Walk us through how your team is operating in real time.
Sure. So the JustPark setup, there's a lot of responsibility there from the JustPark side. So from a permit holder, our permit holders for Campus Park has an API that runs through to JustPark. We have just over 41,000 parking permits that we have. So JustPark has to, be able to take in all of that data. And then with Ticketmaster, those parking passes for the stadium events are also integrated. So it has to be able to take in all this data. Then we log into the system and decide and designate, which lots we're selling versus which lots are prepaid parking only, which lots the permits work at, which lots they don't. And it's, we get very granular on lot by lot of what we're doing and then double checking it. And then day of, we start testing so for football, we come in at 4:30 in the morning and we start running test transactions just to make sure everything's live and running well. We've had no issues. But our management team is on site, similar to what Brian's laid out, is on site with that JustPark suite on their cell phone, out in the lanes, out in the lots, checking status to make sure stuff's coming in correctly, No one is, logged into the wrong location. Everyone's taking permits the way they're supposed to. And then we're able to really, transfer staff if we need to. If we see that there's an area that's getting hit harder than others, we can put more staff there. So really we're making some in the moment calls, but for the most part, if it's football, it's kind of running on its own. It runs the same each year. We've got that pretty fine-tuned. It's these concerts that we're still trying to navigate, get better. It's nice with JustPark though, in the sense that as we see things fill, we can call out on the radio to all the PD officers that are working all of the traffic patterns and say, this lot's going to take 100 more, and then we're shifting. And they change the entire traffic pattern, and they change all of the message boards on the freeway, and we're able to work together and get traffic where we need to go as best we can. I think we've done a really good job. We had Luke Combs last weekend. I think there was 97,000 people that got in the stadium for that. I thought it went well. I have not heard otherwise, but when you're just parking that many people at the end, it's nice to see just how massive this campus is, how much we've taken in, and then we get these just park reports showing just how much we were able to utilize, whether it was the prepaid passes or just day of parking. I mean, it's like I said, it's real time, and it's really important to be able to give that feedback to the university and call out those things for traffic control.
Yeah. I know we mentioned when Brian was talking the different fan types, so football versus a third party, but I think it's important to note different concert types too, right? A country music concert, fans are going to act differently than maybe a pop concert, a younger crowd, things like that. So that was a great point. So you mentioned 50 to 75 events a month. How do you actually keep all of that coordinated? What's your management, your week-to-week management process look like?
I cannot express how many meetings and regular Teams messages that we have between all of our different groups. We have our communications team and our event team and our operation team, and then all the different, groups at the university that we work with. Every department has a different group. So they're constantly sending us their information, and we're sending information back. So I think for us, these regular meetings and touch points with every group is extremely important. Then we make a calendar that we reference throughout the week and throughout the month to make sure our staffing levels are where we need them to be. From there, we figure out the logistics each day. So we have campus broken up into different sections or zones. So we will see like if we need to separate managers into different zones, what the staffing plan looks like. The device configuration, like I spoke about, is very specific. Recently, we've had events where, there's some free parking, some of our like lacrosse and some of our like women's basketball. We don't necessarily charge for that, but we are there to help people get where they need to go at the lots and help flag people. But recently we had a 4-miler event, which did have, charged parking a certain rate. And 2 hours later, we needed to be able to pivot and start charging a different rate for an event at the Schottenstein Center where some of the lots were shared. So our team being able to communicate with the Schottenstein Center as an example, and then being able to communicate to our people in the field to get the correct rates and get them changed out and charging the right thing. It's a lot of communication, a lot of emails, a lot of calendars.
I can only imagine. So I want to talk a little bit more about weekday events. So a weekend concert's one thing. You don't necessarily have the amount of students on campus, not as many, hopefully not as many doctor's appointments or people visiting the hospital, but you are hosting a lot of events that are happening in the middle of the week. So can you talk about what that actually looks like operationally?
Sure. So Luke Combs was on a Saturday, so much easier to operate when it's on a Saturday. But mid-May, we've got Bruno Mars, which is on a Wednesday. So it's helpful in that the majority of students will be on because move out and graduation have gone past, but you do still have some academic operations that are in play there, and then always the medical center. So you can't just close off sections of campus, even though we want to, just because, Saturday versus Wednesday. So what that means is we have to manage that transition. And Brian started to speak to it as well. We're going to rely heavily on the university with their messaging to say to staff, you're expecting these really high volumes at the time where first shift's going to be exiting. So we will be working through, do we change the permit access? Do we allow permits to come in at a different time to try and get them out of the surface lots? And then to that same point, we normally tow certain lots to save for prepaid parking. We're not going to be able to do that this time. So we've set the expectations based on all of our data from our space tracker and from Park Hub to say, this is how much you can sell during a daytime event, and everything else we're going to have to rely on drive up and be really strict on what time we allow public into these spaces.
And then you also mentioned you have multiple venues to manage simultaneously. Luckily, coming from the arena district, you had lots of experience doing that. But can you describe how that multi-venue dynamic plays out?
Sure. So like I said, the Schottenstein Center holds about 18 to 20,000 if we're having like a full-scale concert. That is occurring on the north side of our campus. So when there is a Schottenstein Center concert or something else happening nearby, like a baseball game or a track event, there are many times where they're all together. All the athletic complexes are close to the shot. So for us, it's a lot of coordination in athletics telling us, if there's a baseball game, we don't charge those people to park, but we're gonna specifically tell them to park in this area of a lot. And it's our responsibility to block that area, make sure our staff is well aware of these people are going to self-identify at the entry. You need to get them navigated to where they need to go, but make sure you're charging others. Again, this comes back into JustPark Suite. So we're trying to get to the point where even the people that aren't paying can have some type of QR code so we can start to manage that data and see, what that capacity looks like and report it back because maybe we should, pivot and move people to different areas. So sometimes it's just as granular as directing people from a certain direction or using certain entrances to identify where they're coming from or what they're going to, which event. So the SHOT also has a different pricing and planning model. So what we've been working on, and again, this is all for the SHOT, this is all programmed through Park Mobile, but what we've been doing with the information, the data that we're getting, especially from the JustPark Suite, is running projections based on previous data, previous pricing models, the show up rate for prepaid parking, and trying to better guess what our rate should be, what our police deployment should be, whether we need shuttles to the further out lots. So we've been able to kind of use all this data to figure out how we better manage multi events at the same time. And if we can start to encourage the university to take this data and shift the expectations of the parker.
Great. And then looking at trajectory, you guys host the Buckeye Music Festival every year. You had the NHL game last year at Ohio Stadium, and you have four major stadium concerts this year alone. So is this just a 2026 thing? Is this a long-term shift that we should be expecting going forward?
I agree with Brian. I think it's normal now, especially like you said before, if the stadium is just sitting empty, why not fill it? Why not take the opportunity to sell it? And I think it's really important, especially from the parking side, if we can support the university and show that we can be successful at this and help them be successful and bring in more talent, I think that's a huge responsibility that we take on. But I think our team is really good at it. We enjoy it. We like these big events. It's very hectic, but it's fun. I think tours for these major acts are going to be looking at these stadiums. If you can sell out or even sell 60,000 in a stadium, why not? Why not do it?
Awesome. And then last one for you, Brett. What's the most underappreciated challenge when a university or an operator first starts going down this path with hosting these global events?
For me, it's the mindset shift in the arena district. It's mostly like you want people to get where they're going, but it is a big money generator here. The fundamental purpose of parking isn't revenue generation. So I say all the time to the team, we're here to maintain an orderly campus. Like I've said numerous times, we want to get people where they need to go and get our permit holders where they pay to have access to. So making sure everyone can get to class, making sure they can get to work. I think sometimes people imagine that a big event means you shut everything else down for the day, and that's the focus and that's the only goal, and it's not singular like that. So I think it just requires a lot of planning and organization, and it's far beyond like we put a sign at the entrance to the lot and we have a staff member there and that's all we have to do. There's so much that goes into it. Like I said, we need the real-time data and everything to set up this infrastructure to be able to run this many events at one time and make sure everybody can get to work. I just think the mindset of it's not just about making money. It's about making sure everything runs together, runs well, people get where they need to go.
Great. Really appreciate it, Brett. So kind of as we start to wrap up before the question period, I kind of want to highlight some of the themes that Brian and Brett have discussed over the last 40 minutes or so. So first, as Brian hammered home, football and concert crowds are not the same. You have season ticket holders, students that are going to football games. They've generally been going for many years. And as he said, I think it was the Luke Combs, 90% of those concert goers were first time on campus. So the arrival pattern is different. Your communication plan needs to be different. And the playbook, no matter how well you think it works for football over the years, it doesn't automatically transfer to concert. So really important to keep that in mind as you're planning out for concerts and making sure that you're considering all these first time campus visitors. The second one that Brett did a really good job of highlighting is that the real-time data really changes how you operate. So having visibility into who's on campus, who's parked, where they've parked, as Brian mentioned, being able to make real-time changes to messaging boards to influence traffic patterns is extremely important. No longer a nice to have, I would say. It's definitely a need to have on campus, that real-time visibility. The third is a university campus is not a standalone venue. Both Notre Dame and Ohio State is a campus that never really stops, and there's a lot of stakeholders and a lot of things happening, whether it's a university medical center on campus or another venue running a soccer game or a baseball game simultaneously. It's very different than your typical sports venue. So planning for that overlap is something that really separates a smooth event from a stressful one. And then finally, as Brian mentioned earlier, every event is a data point. So whether you host Garth Brooks for the first time and it maybe doesn't go to plan, that's just one data point in a series of many. So building that institutional knowledge will compound over time, but it only happens if you have systems in place to capture that. So thank you again, Brian and Brett. Really, really appreciate the conversation and the knowledge that you guys share and that you've shared today with everyone. So with that, I want to open it up to questions. I've seen kind of a flurry that have come through in the comments, but if you haven't dropped yours in yet, now is the time to do that. And let me scroll up. So first question, Brian mentioned he doesn't go to multiple platforms to check enforcement. What platform are you using to enforce? And are all it's integrated into one system to enforce your monthly pass holders, prepaid, on-site, etc.
So everything that we do is mostly through JustPark, and then the live view there. We can import some of our passes that we have on campus here into that area as well, but sometimes we don't utilize as much as we probably should be. But we have a kind of unique situation here where all of our lots are also faculty, staff, student lots, and some of them overlap to event lots as well. So we have a few lots that we dedicate on event days or weekends that are just for students, faculty, staff to park in, or they may get free parking with their valid campus hang tag in some of our grass lots as well if those are filled. So it's kind of a hard thing to kind of manage because we never know how many students or staff are going to be coming to the game for free and they're just going to go park in our lot after the other ones fill up. But we have enough data now that it's not as a scary number as I used to think it would be. Because if 4,000 faculty, staff, or students show up and decide to park in our grass lots that we're trying to pay to park, where do we direct all the guests to try to accommodate everybody? And we've never run into that situation where we filled up because we had too many, I guess, free parking areas on campus for our community. Hopefully that answers that question. It's a little challenging on our end with everything else going on our campus.
Yeah, Brian, staying with you, given that staff arrival times can be later in the day, how are you currently protecting designated lots from unauthorized use by non-donor students or general staff?
So I have anywhere between 100 to 150 staff on campus between my actual staff that we employ plus outside agencies that we use to kind of help out with parking accommodations, not counting our police departments and things that are actually managing traffic around our campus perimeters. So we have dedicated lots, like I said, that they're allowed to go into that we keep other guests out of. So they have to present a valid hang tag to park in that lot until it fills up. And then once it's done, we do direct them to the next lot that they're allowed to park in. If any guests are coming to campus that are here to see a student in front of theirs in a dorm somewhere, they have to pay to park in one of the lots. But it's not a gouge that some places maybe have. It's pretty on the reasonable side of things.
Brett, I'll shift over to you. I see a couple questions on towing. So how do you determine which events to tow from the lots? And do you have a tiered protocol for towing, or is it handled on a case-by-case basis?
So we'll use football is the easiest. We have signage, permanent signage posted at the lots, stays there all year about football Saturdays and how the lots have to be clear starting at midnight on the day of the game. And then we also send additional communications through email. We post on our website, and then we put additional signage at the lot on A-frames the week leading up to it. We tow from midnight till about 4 o'clock in the morning because we're towing anywhere from 40 to 100 cars in the 15 lots that we tow from that are prepaid only for our athletics. And then at 5, that lot is staffed, so we don't have to worry about anybody getting in. It's barricaded until our staff gets there. The towing, it gets charged back to the customer. So we use T2 for our permit system and all of our citations. So it goes through T2 and then they'll log in and pay for it. It's a big effort to get everyone towed in time. I mean, I think we bring in like 6 tow trucks from the local company, but it's not tiered. It's a set rate. If we have to tow your car, everybody's paying the same rate.
And then I love this question, something that we've been seeing in the last few years. I'm not sure if either of you have experience, but are you guys using drones? And if you are, what's the timing, the number, any positives or negatives?
Mm-mm.
We have a few drones that we have personally here on our campus that we use mostly just for traffic control. Double checking if we don't have a camera in a certain intersection around campus, we'll pop it up there to kind of keep an eye on things. And we also have a helicopter that comes onto campus, usually about 4 hours before the event time, kind of just help us also coordinate with traffic patterns and logistics around our university. And they also help out post-event too to kind of show us where backups are so we can make alternate plans on the ground to kind of reroute vehicles to a different area that's maybe not getting hit as hard as one of our areas that lead to our toll road and things like that.
And then our friend Jamie Vines, another JustPark customer, do you have partnerships with Uber or Lyft? If so, how do you control specific pickup drop-off areas so it doesn't interrupt or interfere with traffic? Also want to layer on an earlier question on, are you all seeing Waymos on your rideshare? So I'll open that up to either of you.
So for Luke Combs, at this last one, we've changed our entire approach to rideshare. So the university has a relationship with Uber and Lyft, and we've taken an entire lot on our west side of campus that's over by our shuttle. So we direct them all there for drop off, and we also stage them all there for pickup, and we have signage to, designate each row so it's easier to tell, parkers coming back that are getting shuttled back in that area to tell them where they're waiting for them. But we try to designate one whole area for them to get them off of main campus, out of the general traffic patterns. We can be a lot better about getting those people back home where they need to go without kind of causing any more congestion around the stadium.
And for us, we don't have a current partnership. I had a debrief meeting for our Luke Combs concert right before this, and that was brought up by our police agencies here that they are seeing way more need for rideshare pickup drop-off locations, and we had a couple set up prior. They weren't heavily utilized, so we kind of went away from that and just tell everyone get off campus a little bit. It's a couple minute walk just from our stadium to just off campus, and kind of get your Uber from there, kind of get out of our traffic pattern area, and they'll be able to get to you. And we actually, like I said, we were just talking about it now that we're going to kind of focus more heavily on trying to figure out a better rideshare plan that makes everything a little bit easier for everyone involved.
Brett, one more for you. For football games, do you close any tailgating lots before kickoff? This question asker says they're looking at closing tailgating lots 1 to 2 hours prior to kickoff for safety reasons, as well as enhancing the tailgating experience for the fans.
We don't close any off. Typically the tailgate lots fill up pretty quickly. I mean, we have fans, they will be there sometimes before our staff gets in at 4:30. They are diehard fans, but no, we don't close any off. Once it's full, we'll close off the entry, but the tailgate can go as long as it wants to. Most people, there's sections that tailgate during the game. So there's a decent amount of people that don't even go into the stadium.
And then I think one more for you, Brett. When do the students buy permits for the semester, and how do you set an accurate number of permits to sell? And when does that process start?
The permit process is a little complicated in the sense that our permit year starts August 1st and it runs through July 31st. A lot of the options depend on, your rank, eligibility. It's all based on, we take in a lot of data from OSU and put it into our system, and that's predetermined. So when they log in at the beginning of the season, usually it opens up in July. that it will tell them which permits they're eligible for, and then they can decide which one they want to purchase. Sometimes it depends on where they live, if they're a commuter. So that's a much more complicated answer, but it will lay out what they're eligible for, and it gives them the option to pick what they want to sign up for, which garage access they want to get.
And then I can take this one with experience working across a lot of different types of clients. If you're limiting pre-sales, do you vary the price between pre-sales and day of parking? I can say in my experience, Ryan, the majority of people are discounting pre-sale to drive those people, get that guaranteed revenue. And then they're charging extra on the day of. I even seen it a second tier where they're charging even extra if you're still accepting cash. So maybe it's $5 more if you want to pay in cash versus credit card. There is another school of thought, though. We see it less that you charge more for pre-sale because it's a guaranteed spot. But that one's less prevalent, and we have seen consumer complaints when they show up and they see the drive-up rate lower than the pre-sale rate. There's a couple of questions on kind of resolution in your lot. So if a driver shows up with a pass, say it's the wrong pass or an invalid pass, how do you handle that? And then there was another on non-English speakers that may have an issue in one of your lots.
We see a lot of pass holders that are bought a pass for maybe the north side of our campus. They're on the south side, so we kind of do our best customer service and get them out of the way of those traffic lines. Explain to them kind of what's going on there. We used to have QR codes that we'd give to our staff that they could scan from where they're at and get them to the correct entrance there to our campus where they need to go. So that's helped out a lot. And then we've not needed to address the non-English speaking aspect of things. There's been a few times that we need someone who needed to know Spanish, and we actually have a few Spanish speakers on our team that help out. But it's not kind of been any more issues than just that situation so far. It's something we're aware of. We just not have a game plan in place that we're trying to learn as we go. If
And then here, Brett, I'll throw you another. For your large stadium events, football games, concerts, do you have lots reserved through campus, or do you only have access to certain lots? And are you gateless or gated?
The garages are all gated, surface lots are open. So when we make our maps, there are certain areas of campus that we will designate as no event parking. We will have to post signage. Occasionally we have to put someone posted there to actually protect it. But so for example, we have our medical center, but we also have our veterinary center. So that's also 24/7. We have to put no parking out for the staff to be able to park during the day of, but all the lots around it will be prepaid only or even day of game parking. So we do have some that are closed, but the majority of parking is open for the day of game.
And then Brian, what was the experience for most recent Luke Combs concert? Or I think what the question is, what was your pre-sale versus your day of sale percentage for Luke Combs?
I have that up because I made sure I had that here in front of me. So
Good question.
we had let's see, almost 2,000 credit transactions through the devices here. So we are cashless, so everything's going to be credit or digital. So we had just under 2,000 drive up day of, and then just around 4 or 5,000 for pre-sold. So it was we know what we pre-sold, and of course the show rate's not 100%, so it's a little less than what actually was purchased. But it's almost a 5-to-1 pre-sold versus drive up for this past concert.
Yeah, and then I see a question on, is there a method to safely collect license plate registration for season ticket holders, which is a great question. I know for Ticketmaster and for Paciolan and for Axis, there's no way to tie a license plate directly to a season pass without doing kind of a roundabout way with the camera scan on a sign. Coincidentally, JustPark is working on that. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Next question. Do you deploy AEDs or roving medical staff with such a large footprint?
We have medical staff all over campus. I don't know about Brian, but between PD and the EMTs, they're all over. We also have designated huge ADA lots and an ADA garage. We typically have some stationed there as well, but we have to keep the, clear path for them to get through, but we have them dedicated all over campus in every zone. Not the AD, just the staff.
Yeah, we're the same way. We have I think anywhere between 10 to 20 gators that drive around campus with all PD, medical. We're It's a very quick response when things are needed that roam around our campus for things.
I see one of my favorite questions, and I know Brett has great experience with this, being Ohio State was one of JustPark's first clients on the university side to go fully cashless. So what was your experience with that process?
I actually started after we went cashless.
Oh
So by
no.
the time I got here, we were already cashless. But I dealt with it in the arena district. So I can say, I mean, going from two-part tickets to a handheld device is the greatest decision ever made. Not having to deal with police escorts and, just the risk alone of people stealing or, unfortunately someone getting robbed, worth it to go cashless. But, you free up a lot of time, a lot of risk. And while you have people that show up that are obviously, still thinking you can pay with cash, rarely do we have someone who doesn't have a form of payment that they don't have as another option.
Yeah, and Francis, JustPark we've had many, many, many clients go cashless over the last few years. We have a lot of resources online that we'd be happy to share with you. The one tip I always say from my time visiting Ohio State in person is they have these big buttons at all the cashiers where that says, "We do not accept cash." So I think that's really important. And I know a lot of venues that I've talked to are going to implement something similar. I think I
Cool.
got through, looks like, do you get a show sheet for concert and what type of lights do you use?
We get a show sheet. Um, Sometimes they don't always follow, even though it's set on the sheet. They don't like to follow the timeline. So this past for Luke Combs, it actually ended 15 minutes earlier than we were told. So luckily, we prepped ahead of time to make sure our teams were ready to go for outbound traffic 30 minutes prior to what we were originally told. So we had a little bit of a window there, so things were good to go. Um, as for lights, I'm not sure if you mean traffic control lights or like lights in the parking lots and portable towers that help out. But we do have bright yellow LED lights that we help direct traffic with, and then all of our lots have either our campus parking lights across our parking lots, or we have about 60 light towers that we put at different areas that we don't have those lights at to help out any kind of access control or any dark areas that we need to make sure it's lit up for the event.
Awesome. Well, we got through most of them. Apologies if I missed your question. I was doing my best to scroll and keep things kind of concise. But if you did have any other questions, feel free to shoot us a note after the presentation. Happy to try to get you an answer. Always good to see that many questions. That means the conversation was engaging for all the listeners. So thank you again to everyone for joining. Thank you again, Brian and Brett. Always great to see you. Your knowledge is awesome, and it's always great to hear your experiences. So, Tyler, with that, we'll hand it back over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone, for those great questions. As we wrap up today's program, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to JustPark for hosting today's Learning Lab with the support from our amazing panelists. IPMI truly appreciates all of your support. And thank you to our audience for spending part of your day with us and engaging throughout the session. That concludes today's presentation. We look forward to seeing you at a future program. Have a wonderful rest of your day.